This is the ERP Advisor.
The ERP Advisor's overview of Sage.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our webinar today. This summer, ERP Advisors Group is spotlighting the most prominent vendors in the ERP software market. Today, we will be discussing Sage and its offerings and providing key insights into our experiences working with them. Shawn, thank you so much for joining me today.
You bet. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Sage is one of the largest ERP vendors in the market. They're international with customers around the world, offices around the world. They compete with the likes of Microsoft and SAP, some of the other largest vendors. With that, can you talk to us a little bit about who Sage is and what they do?
Sure. Yeah, it's I think Sage has a pretty good brand name in North America. I mean, a lot of folks that call us are from around the world, but I would actually even say that in Europe, I think Sage is better known than in North America.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, Sage had purchased or had some products, and they did a product change years ago. I don't remember when it was. But they moved from calling products, and the organizations have changed too. Like it's actually a pretty interesting story that we'll get into. But basically, you've got a solution, Sage as a solution provider that offers ERP for a lot of different kinds of businesses, but mostly sort of small to mid-size, although they do have a product that scales up. So. You know, you've Sage 100, Sage 300, Sage 500, but then they also have X3, Sage X3, and of course they also have Sage Intacct, which we'll talk about, which was a big acquisition they made several years ago. So a lot of different kinds of products that Sage offers for sure.
Yeah. So with that, are there any very specific industries that they work more with than others, or are they pretty much a universal ERP platform?
Yeah, you know, you're going to hear this a lot with Sage, which is it depends. And what it depends on are the specific products that we're talking about. So you can sort of segment out Sage into a couple industries that they serve really well. They've got sort of distributors. If you think about distribution business, it's really hard because you've got, you know, all kinds of purchasing and procurement that you're doing, sales and pricing and inventory management and financials. You know, that's like a core industry, especially for organizations that are sort of that SMB, small, mid-size or small, medium-sized businesses. Sage does a really, really nice job with those solutions with their Sage 100 and that product. Then they also have sort of a pure cloud solution called Intacct that I believe they purchased just in maybe the last 7 or 8 years here. And Intacct is a good application for like core financials. It's very focused on financial management. So complex financials with multi-company, lots of different countries, currencies, that kind of thing. They also have nice services functionality, projects kind of functionality in Sage Intacct, as well as even some recurring billing for software companies. So that product sort of fits there really well. They've also got a construction project that's a little bit more of a legacy product, used to be called Timberline, Sage 300C. Then they have an old product called Sage 500, which is actually a really good manufacturing solution. And then Sage X3, which is also manufacturing, but interestingly more on the process side, although it can do some other stuff too. We're actually looking at it for a food company right now. And I mean, that really kind of rounds out their main offering. So again, when we think about Sage, we always have to sort of kind of dive into which product versus say something like, NetSuite, where we think about it as just kind of one product that has different suite success modules to it, right? Sage, you have to think about these different kinds of organizations. So yeah, it's interesting. It's definitely an interesting product in that way.
Yeah. What are some of the most prominent features for the different platforms and different industries that you've worked with?
Yeah. So if we think about Intacct specifically, and I guess I should also say too, when we think about the functionality, they do have some HCM solutions. They do have some CRM solutions also for sure. So there's sort of those ancillary or adjacent products that they offer too. But kind of core solution, right? Like if we're talking to a software company, right? That's easy. We're going to go to Intact. It can handle that product can handle a lot of the again, sort of billing kind of rev rec requirements, financial reporting requirements, really good there. Services kinds of requirements handled really well in Intact for sure. Then if we're going to a distributor or even a manufacturer, but distributor for sure, we're going to look at the Sage 100 product for sure. That's what it's sort of targeted for. And it's got pretty deep distribution functionality, but not super deep, right? It's not really meant to be at a $1 billion distributor. It's more kind of early stage to, a legacy distribution company that's maybe upwards of 50, 100 million, maybe a little bigger, maybe a little smaller, but good distribution functionality. And then, like I mentioned on the X3 product, that's more of kind of process manufacturing, more food kind of functionality. So, you could go to Sage. I think Sage, Infor has done this as well, but I think Sage has really done a good job of offering a basket of different kinds of products to their legacy customers, right? Because when they've made these acquisitions of these products over the years, they've been able to bring along a lot of customers. There's a ton of customers in the market right now that run the Mass 90, the Mass 200 product, even Mass 500, right? And those products have kind of been sunsetted. There's some support for them. Like we've talked about, there's always some kind of support you can get, whether it's to a partner, software vendor. But they're pushing customers to these newer products, and there's thousands, tens of thousands of customers in the world that are out here running these products. So, it's definitely a big customer base. I think, per our notes, 6.1 million customers, right? So in 24 countries. So they've got a big reach, right? They've been in business for a long time. But again, acquiring Intact, it looks like in 2017 was a big deal for them also, because that's really kind of the go forward platform that we've seen from Sage. And if anybody from Sage hears this and disagrees, tell us in a heartbeat. But that's sort of what we're seeing, if that makes sense.
Yep, makes total sense. Let me ask you this: how customizable is the different Sage platforms? Are they more of like an all-inclusive type program, or is it like we discussed on another vendor, like more of an a la carte type service program? Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Their products are meant to be more like used out of the box, for sure. But they can be extended also, so if we look at like, again, Intact, we've had some implementations where we've worked with Intact, and the implementation partners are able to build a lot of different things around that product. So it's definitely extendable for sure. I would say the Sage 100, some of the other kinds of the other products are a little less customizable. But then you look at Sage X3 and it's very extendable or customizable. So it just, each one of these is a different product set. Like it's a different code base. So, again, people as you are listening to this, your skill set may be an expert. A lot of people aren't that way.
Right.
Many people in ERP aren't that way because it's so damn complex. I'm even like, now, what is Sage X or Sage X3 again, right? Like I have to constantly keep our team informed on what's going on with these products. I actually just met with a VP of marketing that covers Sage X3, and he gave me sort of a debrief on their roadmap, and I was blown away at what they're doing with that product. So, there's good stuff that Sage is putting into these solutions for first, a lot, but first, you have to, when you say Sage, you have to say, what product? Otherwise, it depends. It depends on what product you're talking about.
Right. So with that, can you talk to us a little bit about the pricing structure for Sage and the variety and the different platforms?
Yeah. Again, not getting in anything confidential. The Sage platforms, the Sage products are priced more on kind of a typical basis. Meaning, you've got user pricing, you've got modules or additional functionality pricing that equals an annual recurring amount that you'll pay every year as a subscription. And that amount that you pay every year covers things like support and maintenance for the product and make sure that you get the new upgrades and all that kind of stuff. So definitely, I would say more traditional subscription-based pricing. So it's a subscription-based pricing model, I should say, first. And within that, very traditional based on the number of users and modules that you choose.
Right. Well, let me ask you this, Shawn. From your experience working with Sage through the years and with a variety of different clients, why does Sage tend to win over their competitors?
Yeah. There's some really nice offerings that Sage has. So starting again with Intact for like nonprofits, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where they've got really good solutions around some of the capabilities that a nonprofit needs for fund accounting. So that's kind of core, right? And especially the big thing with Sage, as again, sticking on Intact for a minute, is they made the decision to say, we're just going to do accounting and things related to accounting. Other things like sales for CRM or time tracking, expense tracking, they may have a little bit of that capability, but they're really going to rely on partners for that. So again, talking specifically on Intact, even to the point where the AICPA, the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, has basically has a partnership as an endorsement of Intact as a preferred accounting solution. So, that's, and we don't know exactly what all that means, if that's just paid or what is that, right? But it's important because it does go to show that Intact is really pitching as a really strong accounting system and one that plays really well with something like Salesforce. So that's a big reason why it wins, is where a customer really just needs that core accounting, man, it fits right in there, very effectively priced against its competition for sure. The Sage 100 products, those win more on kind of a cost effectiveness, pricing wise against competitors. It's pretty inexpensive. There's good partners, same for Intact too, but there's good partners that have been selling Sage 100 for a long time. They know that solution. And usually those partners already have a relationship with other customers because they've been working with those customers on their legacy products. Sage X3 does really well, like I said, in some of the more process manufacturing industries where it's just kind of harder kind of batch requirements.
Mm-hmm. Now, let me ask you this. You touched on this briefly about the partnerships with Sage. What is the partnership ecosystem with Sage? Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, and it's interesting because Sage, I think Sage has, I'm trying to look at my own experience here as my dog snores in the background. Sorry, it's just a little faint sound. Anyway, Erica's gonna scratch her head, so she's gonna stop. Anyway, again, working from home.
That's
yay.
right. That's right.
So
It's
the
all
partners, it's good. There you go. The partners for Sage, again, which product, right? So if we look at Intact, I think we have a lot of accounting firms that decided, hey, we're going to sell and implement Intact to our accounting customers. So you've got really strong kind of organizations that understand accounting principles that are implementing Sage Intact accounting. And I love that, right? Because they know about accounting. They know the problems that their customers are trying to solve with that product. But Sage Intact, as we report on the ERP Minute recently, is starting to offer like a construction solution on Intact, which is kind of interesting. So there you go, right? Pretty cost-effective solution. And I should mention this also about Intact is it is a pure software as a service multi-tenant deployment, meaning when you buy Intact, you're really subscribing to the service, but it's architected in a way where it can easily be upgraded every year. And you're going to get that renewal of additional feature functionality, no problem. So that's another reason why they win and why it's beneficial. I think, the partners on the Sage 100 side, like I said earlier, these guys and gals, I think I saw one notice recently on LinkedIn that one firm's been in business for 40 years. That's a long time, right?
Right.
These people understand enterprise software, how to implement it, how to make you successful. And, that's invaluable. So you get a lot of that sort of legacy kind of experience, which is great. And then on the X3 side, you have firms that really do understand sort of industries, micro verticals and the requirements there too, because they've implemented for certain areas. Like we had a horticulturalist that grows perennials and annuals. Basically a garden shop,
Right.
but not the shop, but where they sell to like the big.
They were
box.
the wholesaler, right? Maybe?
They're even before that, they're the nursery.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
they're growing the plants. That's hard inventory management, right? Because you're like, oh, how many seeds do we have? Well, that doesn't matter. What matters is how many seedlings and how many different levels of growth do we have in this specific plant, right? So
Right.
there's a partner out of North Carolina called Practical Solutions that built a really nice solution for horticulturalists. And that's who we used for the implementation, did a great job for it. So, X3 brings that kind of micro vertical focus too.
More specialized for
Yep.
sure, narrows it down.
Yeah, the partners make it more specialized, which is great.
So Shawn, again, from your experience working with a variety of clients and with Sage, are there any offerings that you'd like to see from Sage in the future?
That's a good question. The thing that I'm seeing is, and this is good to tell people, right? Because as you're evaluating software, you're going to need to differentiate these vendors quickly. And Sage has like if you're a manufacturer and you have heavy inventory requirements, Sage actually purchased an application that does like kind of internet-based company inventory management quite well. So you sort of have to just kind of figure out what the solution looks like, what's best for you. So I would say one of the things that Sage could do, and you should look out for when you're evaluating Sage, is who are you talking to? So if you're talking to a partner that sells Sage 100, right? That's the hammer, and everything's going to look like a Sage 100 implementation. But maybe Intact is right for you. No problem. A lot of those Sage 100 partners also sell Intact now.
Okay.
Right? But if you have heavy inventory requirements and even manufacturing, most of the partners are going to say, look, we can't do that. Right? Or we have the specialized tools that you have to bring in, or these independent software vendors that are writing solutions on them. But if you talk to an X3 partner about, batch, or like I said, the horticulturalists, they're going to be great. They're going to be able to answer that question. So you just need to be careful and just be aware, just like anybody else really in the market in this ERP space, because it's so dang complex.
Right.
Who are you talking to?
Right.
Who are you talking to? And you can simply just ask them, what do you really sell? Just ask that question. And the person's going to say, oh, we sell, solutions that change the world. Got it. But what do you really sell? Oh, we sell Sage 100. Oh, okay. And who uses that the most frequent? That's the next question. Oh, that's distributors that are from 5 to 200 million. Good. And then why do you win over your competition? So those 3 questions will give you kind of the understanding enough of what the offering is so that you'll be like, okay, I finally understand what you do. And I should still call ERP advisors because I'm still confused.
That's right.
Maybe not. I hope not. I mean, hey, this is why we're putting these videos out there so that people have more understanding. But again, if you're listening to this video, you're probably interested in Sage. I really do want you to just be aware that it depends with Sage because there's these different products.
That's right. And from many of our other calls, the bottom line, knowing what your needs are and what your business is, and knowing those needs and what your business is, and then those 3 questions, I mean, that will get you a lot farther than most people, that's for sure, right?
Right. I think that's actually right. We should have like on our webpage, the 3 key questions are like, I could dress like some old, like Moses have like, tablet.
Right. Etched in stone, for sure.
But definitely with Sage, keep those in mind. Great firm. They have a lot of market capitalization. They're strong, a lot of R&D throughout the world, a lot of customers throughout the world, good products for sure. But you just need to know exactly what we're saying. Who are you talking to? What do they really offer? Why do they win over the competition to be fine?
That's right. Well, Shawn, thank you as always for joining me and sharing all your experience with us. It means
You
a lot.
bet.
So All right. Well, as we continue, you and I will continue our vendor series this summer, and we hope everyone else joins us. So be on the lookout for our limited multi-part series that will advance your ERP knowledge and allow you to take advantage of over a century of combined ERP experience from our expert consultants here at EAG. Thank you again for joining us today. Bye-bye.
This summer, ERP Advisors Group will be reviewing the most prominent ERP software vendors in the market. For more information about these vendors, please visit our website at erpadvisorsgroup.com. You can also find more EAG content by following us on social media or by subscribing to our podcast, The ERP Advisor.